It's Lori from Lori's Little Bit of Crafting. Who I can't talk. Maybe it's because I'm on 2 nights in a row, I think, earlier than I usually am. So I am back again with this Hooray for Surprises stamp set and dies. And just to refresh you, if you've not watched me before, thanks for stopping in. And I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, coming to you from Wisconsin. And I am sharing this because it is on the last chance list and it is a smoking hot deal. So if you don't already have this, you might want to think about getting it. The stamps are normally $20. They're marked down to $16, and the dies are normally $32. They are marked down to $12.80. I just looked a little while ago. They were both still available. So basically you're getting the stamp set and the dies for less than the regular price of just the dies. So you're getting the stamp set free and a discount on the dies besides. So pretty cool. A way to do even better is if you have opted in to the Stampin' Rewards program, you will get 10% back on any of your purchases if you purchase at least $20 in product. So this would qualify because altogether it comes to 10, 20, 30, $28.80. Okay, so $28.80 you would qualify and you would get some rewards. You do have to opt in for the rewards. So if you do not already have an account with me, you should set one up so that you can earn rewards. My store is at lorimacari.stampinup.net. If you already have an account or if you're already with another demonstrator, make sure that you go in and update your account so that you are opting in for the rewards. So either way, you need to opt in for rewards, okay? Does that make sense? So, enough of that. Let's get down to business. This is the card we're going to work on tonight. And I've got a couple little tips for you as well. If I can find it's right here. So first things first, we're going to use Peach Pie and Blackberry Bliss. This is a continuing in color. So there's another year left of this. Blackberry Bliss is one of the core colors already. So when I was stamping my flower earlier, it was kind of light and I wasn't getting a really good image. And I thought, yeah, I probably need to ink my stamp pad. So I did that and look at the difference. So if you're starting to not like some of your images and you think, oh, my stamps just aren't working right, something's not right, you might want to try inking your stamp pad. And I need to ink my Memento Black because this one is really light. So I'm just going to quickly, for those of you who have not inked a stamp pad before, Stampin' Up! Has these re-inkers. The Memento one looks a little bit different from the other ones, but you can see how much that is just soaking in really quickly. So it was really thirsty. And I'm just going to go over this a second time with a few extra drops. And then I'm going to let it sit. I am not using the Memento Black tonight, but I did use it, I think, yesterday. And it was just super dry. All right. So I'm just going to cover this up again with the Memento. We always want to store it upside down because the stamp pad is attached to the bottom of the pad, or the holder rather. So you always want to store them so the ink will settle to what will be the top of your pad when it's opened. So I'm just going to let that set. Sometimes what I do is I take like a bone folder or a plastic spoon is my choice, my tool of choice, and I'll just spread that across the ink to help it settle in. This one was so thirsty it went in really well, but this is also a felt pad where like these pads are foam, so it settles a little bit differently. But here's the re-inker and it works the same way. So you just drop a few drops on there, let it settle in, and then you should be good to go. All right, So there's that. With this card, you can see it's a little smaller than what our normal, I think A2 is what they call them, the 4 1/4 by 5 inch card. All right. So this is 4 1/4, and then it's 8 1/2. So it's scored at 4 1/4, which gets us this cute little size. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and burnish that score line. And then I have a piece of our 2024 to 2026 in color designer series paper. This is of the in colors. So I'm using the peach pie variety. And this is 4 inches by 4 inches. All right, so that's going to fit on here with a nice little border around it. All right, so you can decide if you've got a directional kind of pattern, decide which way you want it. All right, this looks good to me, so I'm just going to put some liquid glue on here, some of this Tombow multi-purpose liquid glue, and I use a very thin layer. And we'll just center that on here. The nice thing about the multi-purpose liquid glue is that you do have a little bit of wiggle room if you don't have it in quite the right place. All right, so that's there. And now I have 2 pieces for my front layers that are 3 1/2 by 3 1/2. All right, so these are going to go together. We're going to make 2 layers though, because the bottom layer is going to get affixed to here, and that's going to have our sentiment that's going to say, "You're the best." All right, but first I want to put a little flower on here stamped off. All right, so I'm going to move these things for right now. I'll move this up here a little bit, and we're going to take this, and I'm just going to stamp off a couple of times so you can see how light it gets. I'm going to use the 2nd generation, so just stamped off once. And I'm going to bring this over to my Stampin' Piercing mat. And looks like I had a little smudge or lint or something on there, and I certainly don't want that. So let's stamp off once, and then this is going to go right in the middle. Now you might see that I have a black dot on my stamp. Maybe you can see that, maybe you can't. But I put a black Sharpie dot on there because when I use the die, I put a black mark on my die as well, somewhere there, that matches up with there. The petals aren't real obvious, and sometimes it saves me time, sometimes it doesn't. All right, but we'll get to that in a minute. All right, so let's go ahead and clean that off because we're going to, well, I won't have to use it again because I already stamped it once here. All right, so we're done with that. And then we're going to put our sentiment on the inside. Now this one is really hard for me to open, so I'm just going to pop it on the top there carefully so it doesn't jump out of my hands. And we are going to take this stamp here, "You're the Best," and stamp it right on top of our flower, right in the middle. Okay. And then we can clean that off right away too. Now because these are kind of a red-based dye, that's going to be stained. Don't worry about it. You're not going to be able to get it all the way clean, but it doesn't affect really how you use your stamp. All right. I'm going to close this for now because otherwise I will probably have an inky mess. And I'm going to attach this right here. Again, we're just going to use our liquid glue. And I like to make sure I just get it along the sides and the corner, and then a light drizzle in the middle. And again, we'll try to get this pretty well centered. But if it's crooked or not quite centered, I can shift it just a little bit. All right, so there's that. Now this piece, what we're going to do with, this piece rather, we are going to decorate the front of it, and we're going to stamp this little pull once we put a die through here. And here's the other die we're going to use. So this is going to be kind of like this, all right? And I probably should have, doesn't really matter. I set this up so I knew about where my center was going to be. So when I put it down here, basically it's going to go right there, all right? So we're just going to use a little bit of washi tape here and hold this in place. And we're going to run it through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And we can use the little one for this because it's less than 3 inches wide. So let's move this out of the way. That's even cute just like that, I think. But it'll look like that when we're done. So I'm just going to get my base plate here, a cutting plate, this little piece here, and then my top cutting, or the first cutting plate, remember, if you've joined me before, I always have set back a little bit, and then I put this one up so that I don't have triple thickness at the end. I just have 2 layers, and then it's easier for the machine to pull it in. All right. So that goes pretty easy. And I try to always use the same plate as my top plate. All right. So don't punch this out, because what we're going to do is this is going to become like a pull-away card. So there's just a few pieces on here that keep this attached to the whole card. All right, so this has like 4 pieces where it doesn't cut all the way through, so it's like a punch out thing, and that's what's going to end up going on here once we get it decorated. All right, since we have our embossing machine here, I'm going to go ahead and cut out this other piece that I already stamped, and I don't remember which way my flower was going. So we'll just keep turning it until it matches up. It's probably really obvious to somebody who's watching me struggle here. See, if I would have marked this right away when I made my flower, there we go. Nope, that's not it either. There we go. Had I marked this where I had the dot on my stamp, on my photopolymer stamp, I would have had a much easier time lining that up. So let's go ahead and cut that out. And this other flower, I don't know that I'm going to use, just because it didn't stamp very dark. It's like almost like it's been stamped off. So I may not use that. And we can put this away because I have die cut the other pieces that we'll need. So I have die cut some of these little flowers and the stems, because I figured you guys probably didn't want to watch me cut everything out. All right. All right, so let's go ahead. I guess we do have to stamp that pull with our peach pie. And that was stamped off also, I think. That wouldn't have to be. So we're just going to put pull on here. And now we can decorate. So when I do these little flowers, I like to take my Take Your Pick tool and just press it in the middle a little bit. And you can either do that in your hand or on the piercing mat. And it basically does the same thing, okay? So then what we'll do is we'll get our flower here. I'm going to put a couple of dimensionals on it. I think we'll put like 3 on here. And then we'll figure out where we want these leaves to go. All right. So all I'm going to do is put some glue on the top of the leaf. Just kind of down at the base. We'll tuck that in there. Now this piece, when I die cut it, all those little insets stayed on my cutting plate. So when I pulled it up, all I did was put some tear and tape on the back of there and just kept them in place because I kind of liked how that looked. But this one, they fell out and I wasn't going to fight it. All right. So this one we'll just put under just a little other section here. And we can kind of make that go up on top. Okay, and then if we want one more piece, we can put a little bit more glue on this stem. And we'll just tuck this over here. I think that should be pretty good. Okay. And then I'm putting these on ahead of time because I want to push it onto this piece without pushing through the cutout pieces, the punched pieces, all right? So then we'll do a little bit of gluing here. And I kind of used the sample that was online from Stampin' Up, and I'm just going to make this so it goes a little over the edge. That's kind of how I did this one, and there's going to be room for it. And then we'll put a couple of these little flowers in here. Hopefully that's enough glue. And then this one I'm going to put, I put this one up on a dimensional, but I don't know if I like it that way, so I'm just going to do glue on this one. And hopefully that's all good. We'll take these off. So with these dies, this has to go here. With these dies, this piece is one die, and I just snipped it in half so that I could position it how I wanted. And this die, obviously you can do it in different colors, and that's what I did. All right. So now I want to also put on the embellishments before we put it on the card, because again, I don't want to jeopardize those punch out pieces. So like with my last video, these embellishments are textured. Normally I use the putty tip of my Take Your Pick tool to get my embellishments off of the acetate and onto my card, but I found that the putty was kind of sticking in the texture on these because those are actually cut out facets. basically on the front of those. And these are the iridescent faceted gems. I think they're either going to an online exclusive or in the next catalog, because I don't remember them being on the last chance list. So I think they're still going to be a current item. All right. At any rate, I believe those are still in stock because I looked and they were fine. All right. So this is ready to go on top of here. Now you can kind of see how this works. When the person that you give this to pulls this off, they're going to see the "You're the Best" on there. Okay. So we're going to put this up on some dimensionals. And that's why I waited to put the dimensionals on, so that when we put on these embellished flowers and such, that it wouldn't push through those punch out pieces. And I put quite a few dimensionals on mine, just so that it wouldn't flatten out. And then we'll go ahead and use the Take Your Pick tool to get all of those backing pieces off. See if I can get all 9 of them on my Take Your Pick tool. 8, I guess it was 8, but I got them all. All right, so this can go right off over the top of that piece, and we can push on those dimensionals without pushing on that punch out piece. All right, so now this, on the inside, I'm going to write "Hope your birthday is wonderful." So we'll pull over our little scrap again. We'll get the Blackberry Bliss back out. This one, for whatever reason, is really hard for me to open. Usually I don't have trouble, but for some reason, that one's just giving me trouble. All right. And Blackberry Bliss is one of my favorite colors. It goes with a lot, but it's such a rich color. I'll just wipe that off on my chamois. If you don't have a chamois, you might want to get a chamois. Those are pretty cool. All right, so this we're going to put on that other piece of DSP. And these are the same measurements as the ones on the front, all right? So that's the same. The white piece is the same. So this is 3 3/4 square, and this would be 3 1/2 square. All right. And then we'll put some glue on the back. And we are close to being done. So I needed to use 2 pieces of this 6x6 designer series paper, because my layers are more than 3 inches across. So then I didn't have quite enough to do the envelope flap, of course. I mean, those extend past the 6 inches. So I like to have a 2 1/4 by 6 inch piece to do my flap on my envelope, because I don't like naked envelopes. So let's go ahead and put some glue on here. And I try to get it as close to the top fold of that flap. And then just kind of spread it around. Now, if you're using any foil paper, you can't do it this way, because the glue lines will show through your foil paper. So just keep that in mind. And then kind of a good way to do this is just line it up that way. And then if you need to shift it just a little, you can do that. And I try to do it so that there's just a ridge of envelope at the top, so that the designer series paper doesn't hopefully get caught in a machine. And then we'll just go ahead and trim this edge off. And then I think I still need to stamp a couple of little flowers on the inside of the card. And while I'm at it, I might just stamp a couple of those on the front of the envelope as well. No, I am not a fussy cutting fan, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do to not have a naked envelope. All right, so there's that envelope. So you can see on the inside here, I have a couple of little flowers in there. And that's just this piece here. And these can just be random, however you want them. I did 2 on one side and 1 on another. You could put a few more over here if you really felt like it. Just be careful where you're stamping so that you don't stamp through the punch out piece, because that would not be fun. All right, and then I'm going to just put a few of them on the front here. Okay, so there's one envelope. I'm going to stamp that off. There. I think I'll do one more. All right. So that's our card for tonight. So what I first did, let's go like that. So the envelope flap matched the front. On this one, I used the back side of the DSP. This one, I carried the same design all the way through. So you'll have to let me know which one you think is better, which one you like better, where the design's carried all the way through or where I actually flipped it. So that's it. Surprise, surprise. We went a little quicker tonight, I think, maybe, than we've done other nights, I hope. But that's what I have for you tonight. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to join me. And I may not have live videos for the next couple of days. I am going to a Stampin' Up! Event in Hobart, Indiana. So I'll try to post some things, but it might not work out. I'm not sure, but we'll give it a whirl. All right, so until next time, happy stamping.